Hola, minasan! Welcome back for another round of BattleTech Mech Warrior research. Uh, Viewer requested, even though I said I was gonna watch this, but fan of the show, Vickril 65. Really got me a good link to a good video to choose to check out later down the line. So I'll be happy to see that one. Resuming my research into the First Succession War. Political overview. Over at Sven Vanderplank. Sven Vanderplank got a crazy 5-hour thing going, but thankfully he broke it down into smaller bits and pieces. I will provide a link to the full 5-hour video. Make sure to watch, give a like on that, along with the video that I'm going to cover this little piece. Make sure to check them out. Links are down in the description below. Get your notes together for my post-research thoughts. This is a call to action. Comment, like, subscribe, follow, hit the notification button, and let us resume the research. Chapter 2, Political Overview.
When Minoru Kurita proclaimed himself First Lord in December 2786, it kicked off the largest conflict in human history. With so many players involved and such high stakes, it is worth dedicating a chapter of our story to covering the participants in detail. Much of this information remains relevant to the present day 3025, so laying out this foundational knowledge now will allow us to skip past it when covering later events. Chiefly, this will be an in-depth look at the political landscape of the Inner Sphere, focusing on the successor states in the year 2787, the size of their realm, their internal structure, industrial might, and the reputation of their intelligence agencies, as well as some comparisons between them. We'll also look in brief at some of the minor powers scattered across the Inner Sphere and periphery, as well as the remnants of the once mighty Star League and Amaris Empire. The following chapter will delve into the size and composition of their armies and navies. As mentioned, Minoru Kurita was the first to declare himself First Lord from his chrysanthemum throne on Luthien, so it makes sense to begin our overview with the Draconis Combine. The Coordinator of Worlds exercised an unparalleled level of control over their nation, leading a stratocracy of military leaders. Minor noble houses held considerably less sway in the Combine than in their neighbouring states. The Kuritan family claimed dominion over the third largest territory within the Inner Sphere, containing 404 planets, fewer than all but one of the rival Great Houses. The realm was divided into 5 military districts, each ruled by a warlord and internally subdivided into several prefectures.
Let's see. Oh, there's a full-size map in the description. Okay. Yeah, Rasselhag. Yeah, we covered that one. What happened to Rasselhag? Got that one. Rasselhag, Pest. Pest, Benjamin. Space Japan is big. That's big. And D-Ron.
Of particular note was the warlord of the Galadon district, the coordinator's son Jinjiro. Kuritan appointed governors often ran the day-to-day operations of the 5 government districts.
That's a lot of prefectures, so I'm not writing all that.
On the whims of their warlord superiors. In the Draconis Combine, the military reigned supreme over all else. During the course of the war, the Combine would restructure itself as the Dieron military district was formed out of the captured hegemony worlds and the Benjamin prefectures closest to Terra. Chancellor Barbara Liao followed the coordinator's pronouncement by declaring later that December that it was in fact she who was the new First Lord. House Liao already wielded near complete autocratic control over the lives of every citizen within the Capellan Confederation. However, they were kept in check by a small council known as the Prefectorate, and also maintained the facade of consulting the nobility through the House of Scions. The Confederation was notable for its very high density of colonized systems. The Liao family may have held the smallest territory of any great house, but they had fully exploited the systems within that area to claim control over 432 planets.
Wow.
The Capellan Confederation was made up of 7 commonalities, each a former nation that had banded together to fight off the predations of their larger neighbours back in the 24th century. The Jade Palace on Cyan gave that province overall supremacy, but the Capella, Sarna, St. Ives and Tikhonov commonalities were all historic members. The Andurian and Chesterton commonalities were disputed systems with their neighbours, and would become some of the most heavily contested worlds of the war. On New Year's Eve, Archon Jennifer Steiner called Kurita's bluff and declared herself First Lord. It was more out of mockery than a personal conviction.
I just love their throne room.
Accepted that the Star League was no more. Unlike the other realms, House Steiner had not ruled from the outset, instead taking power in the early years of the Age of War after moving the capital of the Lyran Commonwealth to their homeworld of Tharkad, constructing the Triad as the centre for all branches of government. Since then, they had consolidated power within the family as much as possible, but the Estates General still held a moderate degree of influence. The Steiner realm was the largest single territory within the Inner Sphere, containing 476 colonized planets. The Lyran Commonwealth had an antagonistic relationship with their Spinward neighbour going back centuries. It was the threat of Kuritan expansion that had actually drove the Protectorate of Donegal, Federation of Sky and Tamar Pact to unify. Each of the former states is subdivided into 4 provinces or shires, with the 3 capitals located within the District of Donegal, Isle of Skye and Tamar domains. The noble houses of Kelswa and Lestrade rule the Spinward regions from Tamar and Skye. Viola Steiner Dinason's Day of Rage during the Reunification War would always cast a shadow over relations between the families, but the long years of prosperity had repaired most of the damage. Captain General Kenyon Maddock followed his neighbour's example by declaring himself
TikTok duck lip.
First Lord in January 2787. The Free Worlds League was a loose conglomeration of independent worlds, several among which had unified into one of many provinces. Representatives met within the Parliament on Atreus to elect a council to handle matters of state. While the ministers themselves were often unelected nobles within their own systems, this still gave the League a notable democratic bent in comparison to its rivals. However, all this was thrown into jeopardy with the passing of Resolution 288. The position of Captain General was envisioned as only being used in times of great crisis to ensure the nation could defend itself.
But it got
now,
corrupted.
As long as House Marek continued to claim that said crisis existed, they could rule as a virtual dictator. Territorially, Kenyon's realm was larger only than the Capellan Confederation, but they were sparsely populated by comparison, controlling just 338 planets. The 3 major powers within the Free Worlds League were the Grand Duchy of Orient, the Principality of Regulus, and the Marek Commonwealth, within which was the nation's capital. They were ruled by the noble houses Allison, Cameron Jones, and Marek. Additionally, the Stuart Commonalty of House Stuart and Duchy of Andurian of House Humphreys also held a reasonable amount of power. Furthermore, many smaller provinces existed, including the Abbey District, Duchies of Graham Marek, Kalidasa and Orloff, Principality of Gibson, Regulum Free States, and Rim Commonalty. Lastly, there was the Bolan Thumb, a pseudo-province jutting into the Lyran Commonwealth. The Salient was not a formally recognised province, despite raising a brigade from its own populace. In practice, the region was run by the League Central Coordination and Command Group. Last to throw his hat into the ring was First Prince John Davian. The others had made it abundantly clear that they would not support him as First Lord, despite his position as Regent. Only Minoru Kurita could have corroborated his appointment, as he had received a missive from Richard Cameron on the matter, though for obvious reasons he chose not to speak up. Of all the rulers, the First Prince held the least amount of power within their respective realm, at least as long as Resolution 288 held. Their actions in many areas could be impeded or even countermanded by the High Council, an authority which the Davians had continually chipped away at over the centuries. The Federated Suns, territorially second only to the Lyran Commonwealth and counting the greatest number of colonized planets within its borders at 538, relied heavily on the system of feudalism to exercise control over such a large state. Barons holding small regions of land paid homage to the counts that ruled the planets, who in turn swore fealty to the dukes who controlled whole regions of space, all of whom served the First Prince. The Federated Suns was not an alliance of smaller nations. It grew from the Cruces Pact signed on New Avalon during the 24th century, slowly absorbing independent worlds and microstates as it went. Following the Davian Civil War, the internal borders were redrawn and the realms divided into 3 marches, the Draconis and Capellan facing their respective neighbours, and the Cruces March at the centre. The marches were split into 2 or 3 operational areas, and then subdivided into combat regions. Control of the Draconis March had rested with House Sandoval and Robinson for over 2 centuries, while the powerful Hasek family of New Syrtis had de facto command of the Capellan border. The Terran hegemony may have survived the Amaris Empire in body, but not in spirit. The remains of the Cameron realm were in poor shape, now amounting to just 72 systems.
Wow.
President of the Terran Congress and de facto Director General was Jens Panetta. At well over 100 years old, he struggled to lead a nation in ruins, lacking even the most basic support to get things done. Their authority was further undermined by the growing influence of Comstar on Earth. The provincial capitals of Terra Firma and Tirfing had been seized by the Capellan Confederation and Free
New Dallas,
forcing the administrative centers to relocate to Brownsville and New Dallas.
So, what are they trying to say here? That this is Texas? This is Space Texas? Lone Star? New Dallas? I'm sure if I look it up, there's probably a lockdown in the Brownsville, Texas. That'd be crazy if that's what that's being implied here. Oh, man. Let me tell you something. That is a lot of planets. How many people are on each planet? Oh my gosh. How big is the human population legit? I want to do the math, but well, let's say theoretically 1 billion per planet. That's, let's see here. That's trillions of people. Oh my gosh, that's 1 trillion people. Well over 1 trillion people. Let's see here. Let's see here. 4, 8. 4, 8. Let's see here. 8. Let's see. 400 billion, 800 billion, 1.2 billion, 1.7 billion, trillion. Sorry, 1.7 trillion, 2 trillion. What is it? What we're talking like nearly 2 trillion, 3 trillion humans across this entire galaxy. Dang, we some rabbits.
Lone Star Province was theoretically run from its namesake system, but the planet was still reeling from the fallout of the Stalag Civil War. Several worlds had broken off to form their own proto-state around Inglesmond. Lockdale Province, like the other 3 outer regions, had lost half its territory to its expansionist neighbours. Even the hegemony core was being nibbled at by the Lyran Commonwealth. The military-industrial complex within the Inner Sphere had been steadily ramping up for decades, and soon each nation would be funneling all available resources into wartime production. While certain regions were particularly known for being heavily industrialized, such as the Federation of Sky and Tikhonov commonality, the major arms factories were often situated away from these vulnerable border regions, deeper into secure territory.
Makes sense.
This was just as well, as they would soon become primary objectives for raids once the war commenced. Many of these key installations were located at national or regional capitals, which were themselves priority targets for capture or destruction. The Draconis Combine had most of its major factory worlds located within the Pesht military district, accounting for almost as many as the others combined. Chief among these was the planet sometimes known as Black Luthien, so named for the polluted grey sky that permanently hangs above the capital's massive industrial complexes.
Makes sense.
The Combine was notably lagging behind their rivals, producing approximately 20% less than the standard of the day. Liao's industrial might was relatively decentralized, The 5 older Capellan commonalities maintained a rough balance between themselves, while the fractured Andurian had less to offer, and the Chesterton worlds virtually nothing. The Confederation's industrial capital was the planet Tikhonov, the sole planet to have resisted Amaris's early aggression during the Stalag Civil War. Within the Lyran Commonwealth, the expansive Protectorate of Donegal produced more than half of Steiner's weapons, despite most of the province being undeveloped in comparison to their Spinwood compatriots. The key industrial site was located on Hesperus II, the largest manufacturer of battle mechs in existence.
I gotta say, that's pretty close to the border. I noticed that Hesperus is very close to the border along with the other one. I thought they were supposed to be further inside the systems, these major manufacturing plants, and I noticed that they're all very close to the border.
Overall production for the realm was more than 30% greater than their nearest rivals, making them a serious threat in a protracted war. In a realm known for bickering and political infighting, House Manic was wise to keep most of their weapons production within their own commonwealth. A few notable League independents also made significant contributions equivalent to some of the much larger provinces. The largest factories were on Irian. This planet generated so much wealth that in the modern era it now exists as a one-world province of its own, still matching even the Grand Duchy of Orient single-handedly. Within the Federated Suns, House Hassett could produce nearly 3 times House Sandoval, but could only manage half of what came out of the much larger Crucis March. New Avalon housed the largest factories, matching Luthien in terms of weapons manufacturing. Overall production for the realm was equal to the Capellans and Freewelders. Lastly, the battered Terran hegemony had surviving weapons plants on only New Earth and Terra itself. Despite the 3-year battle that had raged across its surface, enough factories had survived the carnage at the end of the Stalag Civil War to match the Davian and Kirita capitals for most heavily industrialized planets in human space. Just as critical to the war effort as these ground factories were the rare few naval yards capable of constructing and servicing warships. Historically, the Terran hegemony had been the center of warship production in the Inner Sphere. Many designs in service with the successor state navies originated in the hegemony, making its capture essential to maintaining their fleets. Even in its fractured state, it still operated 14 military-grade shipyards, more than any great house.
That's fascinating. So despite all the so if I'm understanding this correctly, despite all the other houses having their own industrial military complex within their own borders, New Earth has the big one, sort of like the big money maker for them. How you say they got all New Terra has all the diamonds worth their valued far greater than all the worlds they have combined. And so any one of them who gets their hands on that, it's not just only so much the throne, the sphere of influence, and the fact that it's Earth. It's also the fact that it's got the greatest amount of resources and manufacturing that can give one of those houses all the advantage it need to take over the entire galaxy. Let me know in the comments if I got that wrong, or right, or meh.
The Draconis Combine's 10 facilities were in the Pesht military district. The Capellans had 1 fewer in total, again spread across their realm. Sky and Donegal were nearly matched, with a 10th Lyran shipyard in the Tamar Pact, and the Free Worlds League had 11, with a notable concentration within the small Principality of Gibson. The Federated Suns had just 9, again based mostly in the Crucis Pact. However, a third of their theoretical output came from the Galax Megaplex, a massive new naval yard constructed by Boeing International after the fall of the Star League.
Boeing?
Problematically, they refused to begin production until they received orders from head office on Terra. This left House Davian with only 6 operating facilities. Throughout the succession wars, the success or failure of a plan often rested on the abilities of a nation's intelligence agency. The most ruthless and pervasive is surely the internal security force of the Draconis Combine. They answered directly to the coordinator, meaning even the most powerful warlords had to fear the ISF agents doubtless hidden within their staff or household.
Ninja.
A second group within the Combine was the Order of the Five Pillars. Officially tasked with simply maintaining the honor of House Kurita, they operated their own network of spies all the same. Perhaps only one was more feared than the ISF, and that was the Mashkarovka of the Capellan state. They had a history of using terror tactics to achieve their goals. The Lion Intelligence Corps employed some of the best minds within the Commonwealth. In contrast to their military, the LIC was extremely well run and effective. In a realm not known for fanaticism, the Intelligence Corps nevertheless employed some of the most die-hard loyalists. The newest intelligence agency belonged to the Free Worlds League. SAFE was founded after its predecessor, the National Intelligence Agency,
Please tell me that's an acronym.
In the wake of a financial scandal. Their involvement in the Matic Civil War had tarnished their name, and often they struggled to achieve the same results as their neighbours. The Federated Sons was without a civilian agency, instead relying solely on the Armed Forces Department of Military Intelligence. Unfortunately, internal factionalism and elitism on the part of the military meant that crucial information often wasn't shared with others who might have benefited from it.
That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. So now we know. So now we got. So now we have the not just only the five. Not just only do we have the manufacturing plants, but now we have the 5 intelligence agencies that will be able to do intrigue and espionage throughout. And the DMI is the one that's the most neutered out of all of them. And SAFE, what a name! I hope that's an acronym. SAFE. I want to know what that. I hope that's an acronym. I want to know what that stands for.
The periphery states would barely participate in the First Succession War. They wisely distanced themselves from the conflagration, but were not without difficulties of their own. Their hard-won independence had come with a slew of problems that the battered realms, still struggling to rebuild after their freedom war, had trouble dealing with. Protector Nicoletta Calderon had achieved her life ambition in gaining independence for the Taurian Concordat. Her family's holdings had grown to include 77 planets, stretched along the Federated Sun's rimward border. The realm was divided into the Brinton, Damasus, Hades, and Perdition unions, but the nation's heart remained within the fortified Flanagan's Nebula and the planet Taurus within. Most of the Taurians' manufacturing, both weapons factories and their 3 warship facilities, took place in the Hades and Perdition unions. Equivalent to less than 30% of the Inner Sphere average, they nonetheless managed to outperform what was left of the Terran hegemony.
I'm surprised that they even let the periphery exist.
Janina Centrella still sat on the throne of Canopus, ruler of some 65 planets. The Magistracy had managed to escape the worst of the carnage during the reunification war that brought them into the Star League, but winning their independence had cost the realm dearly. First hit had been the Canopus district, but the Ballad and Luxon provinces had seen fierce fighting in the second year. House Centrella had only 2 major manufacturing worlds, at Canopus and Dunianshire. This accounted for not even a quarter of the Taurian output. Those planets also maintained naval yards in orbit. The 137 planets of the Outworlds Alliance were notionally helmed by President David Avalar from Alpharats, but the naturally isolationist citizens of the Outworlds only paid lip service to their supposed ruler. Alongside the capital province were the Balagora, Blomstein, Cerberus, Omferwacht, and Remora provinces, as well as the Traders' Domain. Just as the others were, the Outworlds was suffering from the fallout of the Periphery Uprising. The nation could just about match the Magistracy for arms production, but had just a single major shipyard, dangerously close to their 2 aggressive neighbours. The Rimworld's Republic had been one of the casualties of Alexander Kerensky's inexorable advance during the Star League Civil War. The older Manus government had been removed at gunpoint, and the fragile democracy that replaced it was swept aside during Operation Ulmerich by the Lyran Commonwealth, who went on to seize most of the key industrial worlds for themselves. Without that foundation, the realm had collapsed. Within this lawless region, various pirate groups and petty kings staked their claim to the ruins. The Barony of Strang and Belt Pirates of Star's End were two such groups, based around systems containing rare periphery naval yards. The Black Warriors, the mercenaries that had played an instrumental part in the liberation of the Terran hegemony through their training efforts at Camp Amber, had been abandoned by the SLDF. When some Lyran refugees arrived in 2785, together they formed the Cercinus Federation. Outwardly, they put on the appearances of a periphery independent, but in truth, they were bandits for hire. Largest and oldest of these pirate realms were the Tortuga Dominions, a loose collection of outlaw groups situated on the far side of the Inner Sphere. Out of the ashes of the Republic rose two realms that promised some better hope of unifying and rebuilding the region. First came the Oberon Confederation in 2775, and then the Finnmark Free Republic 4 years later, the latter even capable of warship production.
Oh!
In a rimward direction
Really?
were two more periphery microstates, the Illyrian Palatinate and Lothian League. In the deep periphery was one other minor compact, known as the Yarnfolk. They had very few dealings with the Star League, and are so remote they have not been heard from in the 250 years since its fall.
I want to know. I want to know about the
This
Yarn
was the
folk.
state of the Inner Sphere in 2787. The successor states girding for war couldn't have known it, but this was to be the apex of their civilization. Would
What a
any
map.
of the successor lords have reconsidered if they knew how little they stood to gain, and how much their own realms were about to suffer?
Amazing.
Thank you very much for watching, guys. This was the first in a two-parter that is coming out this weekend. I realized for a lot of you that this was just a recap of stuff that you were most likely familiar with, and I didn't think it was enough just to release this one episode. So tomorrow, same time, we will be releasing the second part. This one was focusing on the political side. Tomorrow we will be looking in depth at the militaries of the Inner Sphere. If you thought the Star League Civil War was large with over 5,000 regiments taking part, the First Succession War is going to blow it away. I thought it was important to go over all these details in one place before the brakes come off and the runaway train that is the Succession Wars really picks up steam. As ever, if you want to support the channel, the best thing you can do is share the videos around with other people who you think might be interested. Leave me a like, leave me a comment. I read every single one of them and I do try to respond to as many as I can. If you want to see more videos like this one, you can subscribe to the channel. Like I said, one more tomorrow and one more every Saturday this month. Hopefully every Saturday in October as well. If you cannot wait to see the next installment, you can jump on my Patreon now. It's linked in the description, and if you want to support me there, you can get instant access to the next few videos in this series. Thank you once again to everyone who has been offering me support and encouragement through this, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for the next video.
So, this was fantastic. However, I understand he was pressed for time regarding the periphery. Probably, there wasn't enough lore written by the lore meisters for the periphery. But if there is some level of lore, I would like to cover the periphery states as well. I was warned. There was a lot of content. It's gonna take years. But I think the Secession Wars would be more than enough to conclude the research on, because that's really where the meat and potatoes and the source of everyone's campaigns and so on is coming from. Yeah, I do want. I am going to keep up on the Secession Wars, but once I'm done with them, that'll be the conclusion of the research. Even though I didn't get a chance to cover all the houses, I still got to cover all the houses. So basically, in terms of coverage, just to make it very clear, I am going to finish up the main houses, the main houses, the Terran and the Terran hegemony. and the Secession Wars, and that'll be where the research will end at, because it'll be pretty clear, basically. But the politics side of this was very interesting. It was summarized. It was pretty much summarized clearly. Not into great details, but in good enough details to actually cover the logistic parts and who's involved with the espionage, which is actually pretty good. That's pretty good setup. You know what I mean? It didn't. Sven didn't. Didn't spend too much time focusing on one specific thing, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't dedicate too much time. He kept it straightforward and to the point. And the fact that that the, how you say, the attention to detail that the lore masters had in mind with BattleTech, to include things like the intelligence services, your CIA, your spies, your espionage, the MI6s, the FBI. I don't know if that's a law enforcement, but you get what I'm saying. The intelligence agency is pretty fantastic. It really adds a lot more depth for what is being hyped to me as a very big war, and and one of the most important feature in the entire franchise. Like, this is the one that sets that lays out the foundations of what will be the current present day in the year 3000 XX. It's the presentation was very nice, going one by one with each house, and who in this time frame are the big players, the Steiners, Davians, Kurita, and so on, and where the manufacturing targets are at, because it's very clear that Sven Vanderplank wanted to let us know where these targets are, because they're probably gonna be the crux of the battles. How you say, not just only the crux of the battles. Sorry, I have an itchy nose. For some weird reason, it's been itching on me. But not just only the crux of the battles, but the significance of like raids and other things. And I don't know. I don't know how much the periphery is going to really factor in the whole thing. But having listened to the Phony War and exactly what they did just in that alone, is going to be a wild ride. It's going to be a very wild ride. Like, I'm really got a lot of high expectations. I'm very excited, to hear the more important parts of the Secession War. I'm not sure if I'm going to want to, research the side story of Yarn Folk. I think the main houses is where I'm going to want to focus on, before trying to finish up the second, third, and fourth, which, from what I understood, if I understood correctly, from Vanderplank, is not exactly gone into great detail compared to the first Secession War. But I wouldn't mind, just if at minimum, just get a good summary of the Secession War, of those Secession Wars, if I can't get all the details out of it. The manufacturing place, especially by Boeing, especially one run by Boeing, that's funny. But pretty much, seeing how the map was laid out and everything, I'm very surprised that most of the a couple of the manufacturing planets are sitting by the border, and I'm assuming that was because of the Phony War. Everyone took advantage and was able to expand and absorb, other people, other house territories, and thus got a lot closer to the military, the industrial planets, the key resources. So I'm assuming that getting their hands on whoever could get their hands on the top manufacturing planet will have a severe checkmate. I guess a check, not so much a checkmate, but a check in their hands. To use the chess term, they'll have that house in check, and close to a checkmate, and in position for a checkmate if done right. So the emphasis on those seems to be what they're telling me. And it seems a little bit more clearer in this video why all five houses gunning for Terra, and that is and again, let me know if I understood that correctly. Terra has the most abundance of rich resources they need for manufacturing and such. And if they get their hands on it, not just so much that it's the center, of the entirety of humanity, and what that means for humanity, Earth, because that's where humanity came from. But to have that significant resource-heavy edge over all the houses would give them a chance to most likely take over the entire galaxy. So basically, it's the Iron Throne. To use the analogy from Game of Thrones, it's the Iron Throne, and those five houses are the five kings looking to take the whole thing. So that's what it looks like to me. I hope I got that analogy right. So yeah, the politics side was pretty good. In terms of just getting to the point and giving the important information. Say not waste time with the little things. Just give a clear conscience of who a clear look at who's the party involved, who the manufacturing companies are, and the intelligence agencies. Those are the big players. Those are the three key players for the Secession War, and that's pretty good. So I'm very excited. The next one, it will be about the military. It'll be about the military, and then we'll try and then find which skirmish, which one of the big battles to cover, and figure out, and then get a good clear look at how the lore masters put it all together once the big battles come in. Right now I'm Sven Vanderplank is doing a good job, laying out the pieces, what the writers have done with the pieces and where they stuck them at. It's sort of like Dungeon Masters. Dungeon Masters gotta play, cinematographers. They gotta place everything strategically, and then action. Again, big thanks to Vicryl 65 again, for recommending this, and be sure to check Sven Vanderplank's channel, his coverage. It's pretty good. Give it the like and all that, like and subscribe stuff. So head on over to Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com and grab yourself a copy of The Impossible Man, a strange fantasy novel written by me. You'll find links to the book down in the description below, along with links to other merch such as pins, stickers, t-shirts, music. Enjoy the products. Thank you for your patronage. And if you have a copy of The Impossible Man and did a lore video on it on your YouTube channel, thank you very much. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. And if you're interested, you could join me on my live multi-stream on Twitch and Kick on the evenings, where I do lore research, Japanese cultural studies, gaming, and more. Look forward to hanging out with you. So until the next round of BattleTech Mech Warrior Research, thank you all for joining me, and wish you all a good night. Buenas noches, and oyasumi na sai.